Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching Daybreak on the Rise News channel, and it's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. And to help us review the papers this Monday morning is Eniola Akinkotu. He's the Chief International Editor of the Africa Report. Eniola, great to see you. But first, let's look at some of those front pages for our viewers this morning. We'll begin with This Day, our sister publication. It leads with a bit of politics this Monday morning across the papers. And of course, the crisis rocking the major opposition political party, the PDP. Well, here's the story. Mohammed accepts to replace Damagum as PDP crisis deepens. Pledges to abide by party's constitution. Instructs North Central to forward names of choice candidates for chairmanship. Other stories there above the masthead. Lopoberi, who is the Minister of State for Petroleum, says the federal government is targeting 40,000 barrels per day from NNPC and the WAEP, as well as Century FPSO JV in Lagos. He says facility critical to Nigeria's efforts to ramp up oil output. Another story there in the Black Strip. Aftermath of COVID intervention, 70%, a whopping 70% of oxygen equipment lying waste, and that's according to the Global Fund. Keep faith with Tinubu. Tuga appeals to Nigerians. That's the Minister of Foreign Affairs. It's in the yellow box this morning. And the leading picture making the front page is that from Ogun State. A new monarch emerges. It's titled, where you have the governor, Dakwa Abiodun, the newly installed Lakpo Ekun, Tunde Odulaja, as well as the Awujale of Ijebu land, Oba Sikiru Kayode Adetona, after the installation of Odulaja in Ogun State. Eniola, very quickly, the PDP story is unraveling. Mohammed has now accepted to replace Damagum, despite the Federal High Court order stopping the NWC, the Board of Trustees and others from taking any action and removing Damagum until 2025, Eniola.
Well, it seems that the crisis in the PDP is a never-ending story. Although those who removed Damagum will tell you that they had committed the act before the court actually delivered that order, so it may seem that it was just a fait accompli at the end of the day. It's saddening though to see Nigeria's main opposition party go this way. You look at it that since their crisis started, the PDP has, they've not won any off-cycle election except in Bayelsa State. Look at what happened in Edo State last month too. The division too played a role in the defeat of the party. And so what you are seeing, if it continues into 2025, it's very, very likely that the PDP will not be able to even put up a fight with the APC in 2027. And of course, it's not just the PDP, it's also Labour Party as well. So it seems that Nigeria's opposition are not really ready, to take power in 2027. That's the vibe that I'm getting from all the mess that is happening in the PDP. Also, there's also a role that the court is playing in this whole thing. Ogochinyere, the lawmaker, the federal lawmaker, was saying on Friday that over 20 court orders have been issued, out of which about 13 are interim injunctions or ex parte orders. So this is part of what is also fueling the crisis in that party. The courts also have to, be more professional in their conduct. They're saying that the order that was given on Friday was given by a judge who was on vacation, who was not even around. They said that it was on Zoom that order was delivered. So it's quite interesting to see how this is playing out.
All right, we'll watch and see. Like you said, interesting. A judge gives judgment via online. I don't know how that works out. But let's look at the Punch newspapers. We'll look at some stories on the front page and narrow it down to a particular story. It says the major import duty. FG may ground 60 private jets today. Top bank chairman, business moguls affected. NAMA gets list of affected planes. FG Italy finalized talks on 34 new fighter jets. Cooking gas price jumps up to 1,500 per kilogram. Obaseki Bewolo's transition panels discuss handover today. And Dangote meets marketers Tuesday over new petrol price. Togo owes Nigeria $5.7 million in electricity debt. And of course, the PDP crisis. Then, God never planned suffering for Nigerians. You want to look at that. The former president waxing spiritual says God created other nations, endowed them with resources. He similarly blessed Nigeria with numerous resources for growth. Just as Egypt has the river Nile, Nigeria has the river Niger and Benue, plus crude oil, fertile soil, and other natural resources. Yet, Nigerians are suffering. You remember Fela's song, Suffering and Shuffling and Smiling. Eniola?
Well, that's a lot to unpack. First, the one that says the federal government may ground 60 private jets today. I mean, this news keeps repeating itself almost every 6 months. If you go on Google, you see up to like 5 different stories like this. Government is always making threats, and then they always refuse to name those. That's the defaulters. They keep refusing to name them. And so we don't even know, who are the people involved at all. Then what Obasanjo said, so I'm getting feedback. What Obasanjo said too, I mean, the suffering and smiling thing, I'm sure the presidency might respond to him soon, that he's trying to maybe incite Nigerians and all that. That's what they said when Amici was talking last week as well. Although some may argue that Obasanjo has a right to brag too. The country was, the economy of Nigeria was a lot better under him. It was under him that Nigeria had reached about 2.5 million barrels per day in production in 2005. It was under him that Nigeria was able to clear most of the foreign debt. It was also under him that the excess crude account hit about $20 billion thereabout. So he has every right to brag anyway. But I think he's right. I mean, you look at Nigeria that is endowed with so many resources, and at the end of the day, the country is just wasting.
All right, Senora, let's take a look at The Guardian Nigeria this morning. Its big story: uncertainty over minimum wage execution as state governments falter. The leading photos there, that of the president of the Senate, Onyejocha, Minister of State Labor, Ajaero and Osifo, labor union heads. Also, PDP crisis deepens. Mohammed takes charge, demands swift action. On vacation, return home. Citizens confused about your policies. CSOs urge Tinubu. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, slashes borrowing cost by 36%, lowers country's exposure by $1.2 billion yearly. Syrup to Tinubu reverse petrol price pending court verdict. And importers decry 25 million naira clearance for a 40-feet container. But let's take a look at the big story this morning, Eniola. There's uncertainty over minimum wage execution as state governments falter. There are reports that Southeast governors are weighing their options. They may pay less than 70,000 naira. You have Femi Falana, insisting that defaulting governors should be prosecuted. What are your thoughts on this story that The Guardian is focusing on?
It's really funny what is really happening, because the labor, that's the organized labor, they're even trying to increase the current minimum wage. They want it to be a bit higher than it is now. Ajaero, that's the NLC president, was saying some weeks ago that one of the reasons they accepted the 70,000 was that the president told them that he was going to maintain the petrol price at a certain level. So they said they felt betrayed when the cost of the pump price of petrol went up to about 900 and now over 1,000 naira. And now they said they are considering, starting negotiations with the government regarding increasing the minimum wage. And amid all this, you still have governors who are saying that they cannot afford to pay it. So it's really saddening, because the amount of money that they're receiving from the federation account has increased. So you'd expect them to be able to meet up. But let me play devil's advocate a bit. I know that some of these governors have also been saying that, look, the cost of projects, the cost of everything has also risen because of the exchange rate. And so the cost of building a road now if it cost 1 billion last year, most likely it's cost maybe 2.5 billion naira now. If you look at how much the naira has fallen. And so, you know, Nigeria's the income, what they're generating is too low. But really, if they're saying that they don't have enough money, how is it that they have not cut down profligacy? Because you see what a lot of these governors are doing. So they spend frivolously. Some of them are still, you know, executing meaningless projects. And so it doesn't make their own arguments also meaningful as well.
Okay, Eniola, very quickly to the Vanguard this morning. Leading with petrol crisis, federal government resolves NNPCL marketers dispute as NNPCL refunds 15 billion naira to marketers after DSS intervention. Marketers Dangote refinery set for negotiation, delay to impact domestic markets, and a long list of the riders that follow that story. Edo government writes Okwebolo, APC on formation of transition team. Oluwari urges Africans to break free from mental limitations. And this one that breaks my heart, it reminds me of Venezuela. Price of bread rising faster than inflation, Eniola. And of course, DSS releases 2 #End Bad Governance protesters in Kaduna. This and many more make the front page of the Vanguard. But I wanted us to talk about the petrol crisis, Eniola, because this affects everything and almost everybody. I don't know about the Senate president who says Nigeria should cut down on the cars they use. I don't know about him. But how does this really impact Nigerians, Eniola? And this seems to be like a U-turn. Remember that the presidency did say the federal government was not going to intervene in the price dispute, but it does look like reasoning has prevailed. The DSS stepped up to the plate and intervened, and now we are seeing this happening, Eniola.
Energy security is also a security issue. And so I think what the DSS did here is quite commendable. There is no way the government will not play a role in the energy market. I don't know any country in the world where that happens. Even the United States, once the price of petrol reaches a certain level, you see the US president intervening, like, you know, releasing fuel from their strategic reserves. And so something like that has happened now. The NNPC was owing the marketers money, so Vanguard says that they have returned that money now. I'm happy to hear that, because you can still see queues all over the place. You know, it's bad enough that the price of petrol has risen astronomically, but it's even worsening again. You know, it's more saddening that there's still queues all over the place. Even as I was just coming here, just opposite your office here, there's a long queue outside, and it's not even 8 a.m. yet. And so I'm hopeful that at least this will sort of ease the burden of the people. Then the other story regarding the price of bread. I mean, if you recall very well in history, it was the price of bread that was the very trigger. It was the last straw that broke the camel's back, you know, in France, that led to the revolution, the first French Revolution, where King Louis XIV and his wife and the Queen Antoinette were beheaded. So I just hope that the government is looking into this very, very closely, because bread is a very, very basic item. Bread is, I mean, I don't even know any other thing that is lower than bread. Maybe Gary. So I think it's something the government really needs to look into. In most other countries, government subsidizes food, and all we've not been seeing anything that this government is doing, apart from sharing of rice. And the rice is not even really getting to the people, because you're giving it to unscrupulous political actors to share.
Who says nothing is low indeed? One of us here was telling me.
I say Gary is low. Gary is not low.
How can Gary be low? How do you produce it here? He was actually telling me that he doesn't take eggs these days at his family because
it's expensive.
Egg has... It has broken the roof.
Yeah.
It has gone out of the roof. CSOs are asking the president, return from your break, and because your policies are confusing to Nigerians. I think most Nigerians will agree with that. And then, of course, when they resolve the market, Dangote, at whose expense? The Nigerians or for themselves? Let's go international. Ghana particularly, well, I hope I can call this name, Kwahu Manghene resigns as ADP board chair. The story is that in a shocking development, the Bank of England, BOG, has directed Da Sebre Akwama Agyapong II, the paramount chief of Kwahu and board chairman of the Agricultural Development Bank, ADB, to resign from his position due to allegations of fraud and extortion. The allegations come to light after businessman Collins Takwa Abogi accused the chief of extorting 2 million Ghanaian cedis from him in exchange for facilitating a loan. He's accusing this chief of, it was hard for him to get the loan. He told him, look, settle me and I'll help you get the loan, and the proceeds from the loan, you'll give me part of it. This is corruption at its highest level. And of course, the BOG took action immediately. Eniola?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it shows that corruption is not limited to Nigeria alone. At least this man was honorable enough to resign. How many people actually resign in this country once accusations of financial impropriety comes in? You have even judges here in this country who were accused, and they were not even honorable enough to step aside. So, I mean, what has happened here, I think it is quite commendable, but it also shows the level of corruption in this part of the world. I don't really see it as something as a major reason. Someone resigned over, he resigned over accusations of corruption. Big deal.
All right, let's move on to The Guardian UK this morning. A busy front page. Safety fears as Starmer, the UK PM, pledges to slash red tape for investors. Cuts risk wiping out UK's black scholarship. But leading photo this morning on The Guardian UK is from Gaza. It says, quote, "We fear we will be forgotten. Despair in Gaza as focus shifts to Lebanon." And in Lebanon, you have the UN peacekeeping mission saying Israeli tanks have forced way into base. Israel is now finding itself at loggerheads with UN peacekeepers. Eniola, this war is now being more, that has a wider coverage. You now have people in Gaza even saying, look, we fear that we'll be forgotten, because now the torchlight is shifted to Israel and Hezbollah.
Made by Israel to cut off the aid network to Gaza in order to starve, what's the name of this, I'm trying to remember their names. The combatants in Gaza. One wonders when this war is going to end. I mean, this month makes it exactly 1 year, and it's just unending. I wonder what happens if Trump wins next month, because Trump has already taken sides with Israel. So I really don't know how this crisis is going to go. And if you look at it closely too, it's part of what's contributing to the cost of energy across the world. If Israel is saying they're going to retaliate against Hezbollah, they're going to attack Iran as well. If they hit Iran's oil facilities, then we're going to see oil price going up again too. So I think it's time for the whole world to sit down and see, for everyone to try and see what could be done in this situation, because it's really getting out of hand. And this incident might be the very issue that will trigger the Third World War. So I think all hands need to be on deck now, because it is really getting out of hand. You now have the UN accusing Israel directly of attacking their position. I think that was yesterday. If this continues, and if Israel is carrying out acts of genocide as is being alleged and nothing is being done, it promotes impunity as well. And if you recall, this was what really happened that triggered the First World War and the Second World War too, when you had belligerents attacking certain countries and nothing was being done at all until things, just spiraled out of control. So I hope the world can sit down and try and resolve this, because it's really getting out of hand.
Indeed, very strong accusations coming from both sides. The Israeli government, Netanyahu on one side, accusing United Nations particularly UNIFIL, and then Antonio Guterres saying that this may amount to war crimes with what Israel is doing. But, you know, unconfirmed reports do say that those tunnels were very close to where UNIFIL was operating, and they turned a blind eye to the tunnels providing human shield for Hezbollah acting in that region. And Israel is saying, you have to leave. But people say, if UNIFIL does leave that place, then we will likely see southern Lebanon become worse than Gaza. But before we let you go, very quickly to the Daily Express, where the Prime Minister has been accused of betraying voters after he signed up to 8 more years of uncontrolled illegal immigration. Eniola, this seems familiar. This is just barely 100 days in office for the Labour Party and the Prime Minister. Politicians make promises during campaigns, but when they get into office, it's a different story, isn't it?
You know, it's often said that you campaign in poetry and then you govern in prose. And that's what's happening now. I saw a viral video like 2 days ago of a voter publicly attacking the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister was there just looking helplessly as he was being attacked. A lot of the things he's promised to do, now he's saying, now that he's gotten on the saddle, he's saying that, you know, a lot of these promises are not that easy to keep. And if you look at it very closely, the UK spends about £4.3 billion yearly on asylum seekers and this immigration issue. And people were saying, look, you need to tackle this. You need to, because most of the foreign aid actually goes to immigration now. And they're saying, look, we cannot continue this way. And coupled with the rise in right-wing nationalism, you know, people want immigrants out. It's part of what Trump has also been using to boost his numbers at the polls too. The Western world too, they're trying to tackle immigration. And now you have you have a Starmer now making a U-turn and, you know, pushing the deadline. So I think, well, now he's getting his own baptism of fire.
So much, Eniola Akinkotu, for rising up early to join us on Daybreak. And that's all on Daybreak. Next is the morning show. And as you know, every day, or every moment indeed does matter here on the Rise News. I am Ndi Amugu, thanking you for watching. Bye.
And I am Nkechi Nana. Good morning.
Let's do this again tomorrow. I am Adesua Omoruan. Goodbye.